hell is Michael Penix Jr. and why do I love him? Michael Penix Jr. overlapped in college with Kyler Murray, Drew Lock, and Daniel Jones. He underwent 3 major injuries in his first stop at the Big Ten, broke out and nearly won the Heisman at age 23, and came within a game of winning it all just a few months ago. I'm going to do the impossible today. I'm going to make it through this entire video without dropping a single Penix joke. Because like Michael Penix Jr., I'm extremely mature. Now, we've covered Spencer Rattler, J.J. McCarthy, and Bo Nix on this channel in the weeks and months leading up to the NFL Draft. Now we're on to the quarterback that J.J. successfully defeated with McCarthyism in the national championship. That's right, we're going balls deep into Michael Penix Jr. Michael Penix Jr. was born May 8th, 2000, is an American football quarterback. He played college football at, I'm kidding, but really, how funny would it be if I just read his entire Wikipedia page for this video? Would you even notice? Now, Penix hails from Dade City, Florida, where he started 2 years at quarterback for Tampa Bay Technical High School and got an offer to play, not for Washington, but Indiana. The Washington of the Midwest, they say. He originally committed to Tennessee and also turned down offers from closer schools like Florida State and South Florida. Now, it's impossible to talk about the Michael Penix arc without going through the laundry list of injuries that derailed his 4-year career at Indiana. And yeah, that's right, he played a full 4 years in the Big Ten before doing 2 more at Washington. 1 more semester of school, and he'll also be a surgeon. Not many people know that. As a true freshman with the Hoosiers, Penix tore his ACL and got redshirted. Over the next 2 seasons, he won 10 out of 12 starts, but was once again injured in 2019 with a joint sprain, and 2020 the second time with another torn ACL in the same knee. So in those 4 years at Indiana, Penix only actually started 17 games, about the same amount Trey Lance had before the Niners drafted him 3rd overall, and despite playing 6 total seasons, he's still about 17 starts short of Bo Nix, a guy who started his college football career a year later. Now, according to his mother, Michael Penix hadn't had an injury since the age of 5, and suddenly his football career had been sidetracked 3 different times with 3 serious injuries. It made sense to start over somewhere else for Penix, and he would join new ascending head coach Kalen DeBoer at the University of Washington, trying to rebuild the team that had gone just 4-8 in 2021. And knowing his head coach would leave for Alabama after Penix made the Huskies one of the best teams on earth, DeBoer should give half of his salary to Penix this year. For Penix, though, after arriving in Washington, suddenly it clicked, mostly because he actually stayed healthy and got to show what he could do with his left arm, which honestly is the one thing I don't like about Penix. Left arm quarterbacks, they look stupid throwing the football. It's why nobody believes in Tua. And ultimately, that's what made Tim Tebow so impressive as a God-fearing quarterback. He did it in spite of the devil's mark that was thrust onto his left throwing arm.
I was encouraged by someone, go back and watch your highlight videos to remember how good you are.
Knowing these guys have to shop at Ned Flanders' Leftorium makes me sick. Sick. Now, out of seemingly nowhere, the Huskies were 11-2 in 2022, and Penix, who threw for 31 touchdowns and 4,600 yards, became the single-season passing leader in Washington history during his first year on campus. Not to mention, he won 2022 AP Comeback Player of the Year in college football and was all Pac-12, a sharp contrast from my college experience where I was all 12 packs. It would have been cool, maybe the time of my life, if I were drinking those 12 packs with friends. Now, it also helped that he had some serious talent on the outside, catching Penix's dropping balls. That's a football phrase.
Stop.
3 of Penix's wide receivers are expected to be drafted a month from now. Rome Odunze, a likely top 10, maybe top 5 pick, along with Jalen McMillan and Jalen Polk. Two ball catchers who perfectly illustrate the beauty and how differently Jalen can be spelled. Throw in a stud running back, Dylan Johnson, some maulers up front like Roger Rosengarten and Troy Fontenot, and that's a perfect environment for a quarterback to succeed. Honestly, those guys should just start a new NFL team of their own. They'd be that good. I talked about Bo Nix recently and his transfer to Oregon and how that matched him up perfectly with a quick passing scheme. I do think Penix obviously benefited by moving to the Pac-12 alongside all of those playmakers, but there's really no comparison between what you see on tape with Nix and Penix. Oregon worked horizontally most of the time, and Washington went vertical. And once you get past the fact that Penix looks like a toddler high on apple juice trying to throw with that godforsaken left hand.
Because what else matters?
He throws a very pretty ball. He's a leftist. There, I said it. It's not hyperbole to say that Penix has the best deep ball out of any quarterback in this upcoming draft, and he put it on display in 2023 especially. 36 touchdowns, a new record with 4,903 passing yards, and more importantly, an undefeated record after 13 games that included 2 head-to-head victories over Bo Nix and those Oregon Ducks. And those were not easy games. When number 8 Oregon went to Seattle to face 7th-ranked Washington, both quarterbacks had exceptional games, but it was Penix's 4 touchdown passes that lifted the Huskies in a 36-33 shootout on ESPN with the whole country watching. 7 weeks later, they played again in the final Pac-12 championship game. Penix's numbers weren't as dazzling as they were the first time around, but a fourth-quarter touchdown pass gave Washington a 10-point lead with under 3 minutes to go and sealed their win. Penix was the Maxwell Award winner, a prestigious award given to the most exemplary athlete to triumph over a major disability like being left-handed. He led college football in passing yards and nearly took home the Heisman Trophy. Most notably, Washington was undefeated, one of 4 teams headed for the college football playoff, and were about to face Texas. With even more eyes on him, Penix had one of the best performances statistically of his career, dropping 430 yards on the Longhorns, most of them coming by way of the long ball. Texas nearly seceded from the country after that masterclass, and Penix, of course, going horns down with his left hand. That's even weird. His stock was never higher, though, than it was after that game. He dropped dime after dime against a worthy opponent and had led his team to a 6-point victory in the Sugar Bowl. If he could just do it one more time, he'd be a national champion. He didn't. He wasn't. Penix saved his worst for last, it seemed, connecting on just 53% of his passes and throwing 2 picks in the 3-touchdown loss to Michigan. Since then, Penix's stock has fallen, and he's been leapfrogged by the man who beat him that day with 140 passing yards, Michigan QB J.J. McCarthyism. I'm not sure if I've ever seen the public's opinion on a player's ability fluctuate so quickly, but that's exactly what happened to Penix. Wait, we see that every single draft, don't we? The truth is, he's probably somewhere in the middle of what we saw in the Sugar Bowl and the National Championship. Michigan's defense in terms of difficulty level and game plan against him is going to be what Penix sees every week in the NFL. Commanders excluded. But what kind of prospect is he? Where will he go off the board, and what teams are the best fit for Michael Penix? Keep in mind, before Jaden Daniels got hot and stayed hot, Penix and Nix were in and out of that third best QB discussion in this draft. And I have to reiterate, J.J. McCarthy didn't enter that chat until much, much later. Daniel Jeremiah had this critique of Penix following the Natty. I thought that the thing that showed up in the championship game, number one, they hit the stuffing out of him. They got to him. I thought that kind of rattled him a little bit from that standpoint. I don't think the pocket movement was as good as we saw in the previous game. One of Penix's biggest supporters is Joel Klatt of Fox Sports, who said that Penix would be an immediate upgrade over Tua with the Dolphins, 21st overall pick.
A guy that I could see stepping into that offense with that coach with those weapons and looking like he did in college is Michael Penix.
Sure, that's a pretty clickbaity premise, but Klatt praised Penix and his ability to throw with timing and leverage from the pocket, giving his wide receivers the upper hand in tight contested throws. Also, the Dolphins wouldn't have to remove any of their specially altered portions of their facility to accommodate lefties.
Feel the wrath of the left hand of Burns.
That said, Penix has arm strength. And to this day, despite being incredibly accurate, Tua is still blasted for having a lack of arm strength. Seeds, back foot missiles, those are words used to describe Penix's arm. That's where I disagree in terms of comparing him to Tua. Klatt also said,
when I watch Penix throw the ball, and I'm talking about down the field, the ball is always opposite the defender. Mm-hmm. And the wide receiver always is in a position where his odds are greater.
And that makes sense if you watched Washington football the last 2 years. I think this throw against Michigan State illustrates this perfectly. Penix puts the ball on Rome Odunze's back shoulder, giving him what Joe Klatt would call leverage, possibly an orgasm, and putting him and only him in position to make the catch. As for the part about being an immediate upgrade over Tua in Miami, I'm less sold. That undersells how good Tua was for most of the 2023 season, how he evolved, and despite how it ended for them. He's earned the right to hang on to his job and try to win a playoff game in 2024. I get it though, they're both lefties. They both have the mark of Satan upon them, and that is hard for some people to overlook, including me. NFL.com's Lance Zierlein also compared Penix to Tua Tagovailoa in his scouting report, saying he plays with smart pocket mobility and a willingness to get rid of the football, which makes it difficult to sack him. His delivery is bundled and his release point is very low, but this monster game against Texas showed flashes of impeccable touch. All writers sound like that to me. Zierlein also noted that Penix was ineffective when defenses made him move his feet in 2023 and were able to get pressure, but Penix might have an ace up his sleeve when it comes to getting away from defenders. Mace. He keeps Mace up his... No, here's what Penix has that Tua doesn't, and we didn't necessarily know this until recently. Penix has speed, exceptional speed. At his pro day, Penix clocked in on the 40-yard dash with a 4.46, which shocked just about everyone who saw him work almost exclusively from the pocket in college.
It should have been a 4.4, but
Actually, if you go back further, he's always been someone who's operated from the pocket. When Penix was in high school, his dad, Michael Sr., said this about the way his son played QB. We'd yell, "Run, run, run!" He just sat in the pocket. He's always been like that. Nothing worries him. All the stuff around him, that doesn't scare him at all. That's a strength for a quarterback heading to the NFL. And to be fair, we didn't know he could run. But at 4.46, he can run like a wide receiver, apparently. Just for reference, that's on par with wideouts like Jamari Thrash and Luke McCaffrey, as well as USC running back Marshawn Lloyd. It's also only 100th of a second behind his top target, Rome Odunze, who ran a 4.45 at the NFL Combine. Penix only had 100 rushing yards combined at Washington, although college football takes sacks into account with rushing totals, but that hidden speed definitely opens the door for designed runs in the NFL, something we didn't really think was a possibility before he went out and tested. Now, I said this in one of the other videos, that a quarterback operating from the pocket is a strength, until scouts or GMs or fans are looking for reasons to not draft a guy. Extended plays are cool, but Jesus Christ, critiquing Penix for being a pocket guy is a non-issue in my eyes. Penix can jump too. At the Washington Pro Day, he also had a vertical leap measuring at 36.5 inches, which is officially the longest Penix of all time. Fuck, I promised I wouldn't do it, but I just did. Anyways, 36.5 puts him up there with USC wide receiver Brendan Rice. I'm not convinced that jumping is the most important characteristic when you're looking for a franchise QB, but it may have saved the Broncos of Super Bowl 48. But for a guy with 2 torn ACLs, it's shown us that he's still an elite athlete at his position, and the injury concerns might be not as pronounced as we thought. When Penix showed up at the combine, he didn't test other than going out there and throwing, but what everyone really cared about were the medicals. And according to Ian Rappaport, Penix got a clean bill of health from the combine proctologists, answering the biggest and most lingering questions about his future. With that worry mostly relieved, it's time to focus on what he's done on the field and spend less time wondering how long he'll actually be playing football.
I feel like everything I've been through helped me become the person and the player I am today. I wouldn't change it for anything, but, it was times, during that whole process, it got tough, but, adversity is going to show, it's going to show at the next level. And, I know how I'm going to respond to adversity, whenever things get tough, because it has gotten tough for me. So I know I have that on my side.
Just as importantly, Penix revealed at his pro day that he had meetings coming up with Atlanta, Denver, Las Vegas, Pittsburgh, and the New York Giants. Atlanta and Las Vegas actually make a lot of sense given his ability to throw indoors, which he proved at the combine. No, not at Lucas Oil Stadium, in the hotel. Oh boy, we love those hotel throws and throwing on carpet. Being able to do that, he proved once and for all he'd be a perfect fit for the Giants field at MetLife Stadium. But is Atlanta actually a good fit for Penix? As one of the older quarterback prospects in recent memory, I don't know how long he or the Falcons would want him to sit behind Kirk Cousins, who really hasn't shown any real signs of slowing down, save for last year's injury. Penix isn't necessarily a raw quarterback or a project. I don't think following the Jordan Love route is necessary for his development. It certainly pains me to say this, so I won't. All right, fine. What I was going to say is that he would make a lot of sense going to the Raiders. The Raiders also have the pick at number 13, and that's just an awkward spot to take Penix. Just like I said, the Broncos taking Bo Nix at 12 overall might be a bit of an overdraft, but Lord help me if the Raiders are able to trade back, acquire more picks, and still land Penix in the 20s. Ultimately, I like Penix going to a couple teams that weren't even mentioned in the upcoming visits. You got the Saints at 14th overall. I know I just said that would be a reach for the Raiders at 13. 14, not a reach. And the Rams, who had the 19th overall pick. But Penix wouldn't have to start right away for either of those teams, although they're not tied up with their current quarterbacks as long as the Falcons are with Kirko chains. I would have said the Steelers if they didn't sign 2 Russell Wilsons, and the Seattle Seahawks with Geno Smith have to be in the market to draft his replacement. Location, Washington, and need make a ton of sense for the Seahawks, and that's my best bet to land Penix if he doesn't go to the Raiders. Whoever gets Penix, in my opinion, is going to get one of the more undervalued QBs in the draft. He doesn't have obvious physical limitations, and I think his stock's been significantly manipulated by the last time we saw him play meaningful football. But rest assured, if he and J.J. McCarthy switch spots in the national championship, Michigan still wins that game. Penix was forced to do more than McCarthy, and unfortunately, he couldn't answer the call against the best team in the country. And whoever does land this fine young man, get ready for years and years of Penix jokes. They're coming, baby. Oh, they're coming harder than me thinking about the jokes we could be making. Thanks for watching That's Good Sports. Please subscribe here on YouTube. If you don't subscribe, I disappear. Just like the McFly siblings in that photo in Back to the Future. Dear God, subscribe.
Because what else matters? What else matters?